Yerevan, capital of Armenia. A city with a foundation charter inscribed on a stone slab in cuneiform style. A city that is 29 years older than Rome. Worthy, powerful, and at the same time protective, Mother Armenia seems to watch over the city from a northern hill. In the adjoining Victory Park is a stela that is a reminder of its Christianization. It points the way to the cascade, which leads down to the city. The view of Yerevan is overwhelming. The interior contains stairs and halls on 5 levels, as well as external water basins and figures. Famous Armenian architect Alexander Taverns wanted to combine national building traditions with modern urban development. As did Christian, a rich and famous Armenian patron who ensured the not insignificant financing of this remarkable project. Arriving below, visitors are greeted by a number of amusing statues. Close by is the Adornments. Below the main entrance of the Museum of Ancient Manuscripts is Metropolis, the creator of the ancient Armenian alphabet. Adornment is an old Armenian word that means library, a place of handwriting. A noble framework for the cultural heritage of mankind. In 408 AD, the Armenian alphabet was created with 36 letters. Thus began a new era of history, culture, and the spiritual world of the Armenian people. On the basis of those first manuscripts and subsequent translations, Armenia's first library was founded in the 5th century. The library contains around 20,000 manuscripts that cover many aspects of Armenia's oldest science and culture. Medicine, geography, history, mathematics, cosmology, and much more. The collection also contains many forms of handwriting, including miniatures, and in several languages. These priceless manuscripts, plans, and miniatures are a magnificent legacy. Old Yerevan, with its traditional buildings, wonderful entrances, and carved wooden adornments that continue into the actual living areas, is gradually disappearing. The facades of multicolored decorative stone are quite fascinating. and Oriental design reveals the original influence. Classical music also plays a major role in Yerevan, with operas and symphony orchestras in Freedom Square. This is one of the city's pulsating central squares. The district is a popular meeting place at all hours, day and night. Steeply sloping rock faces end in the ravine of the Hrastan River, which forms a natural separation. Buildings reach the slopes, both old and new. Deep below is a narrow ravine. As building work is not permitted in this area, the course of the river has remained intact and the nearby land overgrown. On the western hill above the city is the memorial of the genocide of the Armenian people. New gravestones commemorate the victims of the conflict on Karabach Mountain. Arranged in a circle, basalt steles protect a flickering eternal flame like a closing hand from distant times. In the eyes of the Turks, the Christian Armenians posed a major threat. Situated in the center of the city is Republic Square, which occupies an area of more than 14,000 square meters. Flanked by the historical museum, Chanzanyan House and the painting gallery. There's a fountain and numerous lanterns and sunlit buildings of red-brown tufa rock. A captivating scene. Nearby, thousands of blue, white, and golden mosaics shine out in the sun. A small entrance gate leads to a garden and courtyard of a Persian mosque. It is the only well-conserved mosque in Armenia and dates back to the 18th century. It has been beautifully restored and is still in use. Today the mosque is owned by Iran, and a good neighborly relationship between the two countries has been reached once again. Here, again, are well-preserved ancient writings in the interior. A journey to the nearby surroundings leads to the church of the Hripsini, a nun who found martyrdom here. Grigor the Illuminator had a tomb chapel built here. And in 618 AD, Catholicus Comitas, a church. A harmonious unity from the outside is formed by apses, niches, towers, and a dome. Numerous signs on the external walls indicate the age of the building. Hrepsimi is considered to be a typical and characteristic leading church of Armenia. With few large changes, the church has been well preserved, full of architectural splendor. The old crypt that contains the sacred remains of the martyred nun is located under the east apse. It is justifiably a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Outside the monastery walls of Echmiazin is the Holy Gahala Church, spiritual mother of Hrepsimi. As early as 630 AD, Kathyrikos Geza had this church built above the old crypt. Hrepsimi and a group of fellow nuns fled from the Roman tyrant Diocletian to Armenia. Hrepsimi's beauty enchanted the Armenian king Tridat, who fell passionately in love and coveted her. But the young nun remained steadfast. Consequently, the angry king had her tortured and killed, along with the abbess Gehanna and 35 other nuns. The crypt exudes the dark atmosphere of that tragic event. The most important religious center of Armenian Christianity is Echmiadzin. At the beginning of the 4th century, Holy Grigor, as Catholicus of the Armenians, had a church built on the ruins of a pagan temple. Echmiadzin became the seat of the Catholicos. Next, the mother church, the palace of the Catholicos, was constructed a few years later. The foundation walls of the cathedral are very old, and various additions such as chapels and a bell tower followed later. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the interiors were redesigned by the Hovnatanian family of artists. Thus was created one of the few colored churches in Armenia. Particularly interesting is the museum that contains many religious treasures, including the hands of the Catholici, decorated with jewels. In the vicinity of Yerevan, within sight of the Karabach Mountains, are the ruins of the unusual Zvatnots Palace Church. In the 7th century, Armenian architecture flourished. Catholicos Nerses III had a circular church built here. The site was well chosen because here Grigor the Illuminator met King Tiridates, who was suffering from ill health. The angels of heaven had appeared to Holy Grigor in a dream that had commissioned him to build a church in this location. According to tradition, the then Emperor of Byzantium attended the consecration of the church and was very much impressed by the beauty and splendor of the church. Returning to the city, we encounter hero David of Sassoon in front of central Karyan station. A bright building with a pointed steeple, garden yards, and a large dome outside the main wall of the train station. Everything looks oversized and in stark contrast to the emptiness of the hall. There don't appear to be any trains here. But something rather strange often takes place in the railway station's museum. It's here that stories and descriptions are not spoken, but are sung by the guide. Next to the station is the Shuka vegetable market. It features fine displays of Oriental spices. Fruit and vegetables predominate, colorful, fresh, and delicious. Farmers also sell their produce here and are visibly proud of their splendid offerings. There are dairy products too, a tempting and exotic display. The Armenian Museum is located at the foot of today's city hill of Arimbed. Here, King Agici had the first fortress built above his new capital. The realm of Urartu originated in around the middle of the 9th century BC in the Armenian highlands. The city gradually grew, and the surrounding land was nourished by several water systems. The foundation stone for today's Armenia was laid. In 782 BC, Erbuni was built in stunning style. It featured a refined fortress with palaces, warehouses, and residential buildings. During excavation, the walls of this mighty complex were discovered. Large blocks of stone assembled without mortar. The remains of the 440 square meter temple hall contains frescoes on the walls and a ceiling of cypress wood. The place of worship of the Eurasian main god also served as an arsenal. Adjacent was the king's palace. The fortress withstood the hostile onslaught from the Scythists. In 1984, a grave chamber that dated back to the 8th century BC was discovered during excavation work at a factory site. It had a floor, walls and ceiling made of solid, tough brick, and the niches contained ornate urns. The Grigor Luzovorich Cathedral was completed and consecrated in 2001. It's the world's largest Armenian apostolic church. Although the interior is modern, the religious features of Armenian Christianity have been retained. A baldachin from the Guyana church was divided into 700 sections and reassembled here in its original form. Also, frescoes from the 17th century have been carefully restored and are well preserved. A religious destination for the faithful. Today, the relics of Grigor Luzovorich are kept here, a man who made Christianity a state religion. Taverns often feature singing, dancing, and good food. Armenian music is very varied, often sounds Oriental, and literally invites one to dance. The folk dances are quite acrobatic, and dancers almost fall into a state of ecstasy due to the constant pulse of the music. The evening is a good time to visit the illuminated Republic Square, in which there are fountains and music. Today, this is a vibrant city that has become a booming metropolis in the South Caucasus, full of heart and worldliness. Yerevan is one of the oldest cities in the world, a living reminder of the ancient Orient.